Ambassador Chen stood before the Galactic Council, her worn leather boots a stark contrast to the gleaming crystal floor. The assembly hall stretched upward like a cathedral made of starlight, filled with beings from 1,000 worlds. Most looked at her with barely concealed amusement. The Zephyrians floated in their energy cocoons, their translucent bodies pulsing with colors that humans couldn't even name. The Mechanari sat motionless, their chrome bodies integrated directly into the council chamber's systems. The ethereals existed as wisps of consciousness, barely visible except for the occasional spark of thought light. The human delegation requests membership in the Galactic Trade Alliance, Chen said, her voice steady despite the weight of 1 billion lives depending on this moment. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not human laughter, sounds that ranged from crystalline chimes to subsonic rumbles. The apex counselor, a being of pure plasma contained in a humanoid shell, leaned forward. "Humans," it said, the word dripping with condescension. "You still burn chemical fuel. You still die from cellular degeneration. You haven't even mastered quantum consciousness transfer. What could you possibly offer the Alliance?" Chen had expected this. Earth's scout ships had been reporting back for months about how advanced civilizations viewed humanity, like children playing with sticks while the adults discussed interstellar politics. "We offer perspective," Chen replied. "Innovation born from limitation. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that would have ended other species. We adapt. We endure." The Vorthak delegate, a creature of living stone, grinding its thoughts into words, interrupted. "You offer nothing. Your ships move like wounded prey through space. Your weapons are toys. Your minds are trapped in meat. The Alliance trades in technologies you cannot comprehend." More laughter. Chen felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her expression neutral. Behind her, Colonel Williams shifted slightly, the only sign of his anger. "Then we request observer status," Chen said. "Let us prove our worth." "Prove?" The ethereal delegate's voice was like wind through empty spaces. "You cannot even leave your own spiral arm without generation ships. You age. You forget. You die. The Alliance spans time as easily as space. We are eternal. You are mayflies." The Apex Counselor raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "The human request is denied. Return to your world. Perfect yourselves for another 1,000 cycles. Perhaps then you will be worth considering." Chen bowed stiffly and turned to leave. As she walked the long path to the exit, whispers followed her. She caught fragments: primitive, biological, limited. Each word was a small cut, but she'd endured worse. At the massive doors, she paused and looked back. "You judge us by what we are, not what we could become. That's your first mistake." The counselor's laugh was like solar wind. "Threats, human? From a species that hasn't even uploaded a single consciousness?" "Not a threat," Chen said quietly. "Just an observation. Every empire in history has fallen because it underestimated the hungry." She left before they could respond, Williams falling in step beside her. Their boots echoed on the crystal floor, the sound of mortality in a place that had forgotten death. In the shuttle back to Earth's embassy ship, Williams finally spoke. "They're going to regret this." Chen stared out at the stars, so many of them claimed by species who thought themselves gods. "Yes," she said, "they are." Back on Earth, the rejection spread like wildfire. Humanity had reached for the stars and been slapped down. The anger was palpable, but so was something else: determination. In underground labs and orbital stations, scientists worked with new fury. If the galaxy wouldn't share its secrets, humanity would rip them from the universe itself. If they were condemned to mortality, they would make that mortality count. The Galactic Council's rejection became known as the Day of Scorn. Children learned about it in school. Politicians referenced it in speeches. It became a rallying cry, a motivation, a promise. Humanity had been judged and found wanting. The galaxy's elder races had laughed at them, dismissed them, pushed them aside like annoying insects. They would learn that insects, when united, could devour worlds. In her apartment overlooking the Pacific, Chen received encrypted messages from scientists, military leaders, industrialists, all asking the same question: what now? Her response was always the same: now we become what they feared we already were. The stars glittered overhead, each one a challenge, each one a goal. The galaxy had made its position clear. Humanity would make theirs clearer. 20 years passed like heartbeats. On Kepler Station, Dr. Sarah Chen, daughter of the ambassador who had faced the council's scorn, stared at impossible readings. The quantum field manipulator hummed with barely contained energy. "It's stable," her assistant whispered, awe creeping into his voice. "We're actually bending space-time with equipment built in a garage." Sarah smiled grimly. The galactic races hoarded their technology, protected by patents spanning millennia and encryption that would take traditional computers eons to crack. So, humanity had done what humans always did. They cheated. Instead of trying to understand alien technology, they'd gone back to first principles. Every assumption was questioned. Every limitation was challenged. What emerged was uniquely human, ugly, inefficient by galactic standards, but functional. The first human FTL drive looked like a junkyard had mated with a particle accelerator. It leaked radiation, required constant maintenance, and made a sound like reality screaming. The elegant races would have been appalled. It worked. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of humanity's first true warship, the UES Defiance. Where alien vessels were works of art, his ship was pure function. Armor welded upon armor, weapons bolted to every surface. It looked like what it was, a creature built to survive. "Status report," he commanded. "All systems operational, Admiral. The fleet is ready." The fleet. 50 ships, each one a testament to human stubbornness. They'd built them in asteroid hollows and lunar caverns, away from the watching eyes of the galaxy's observers. Every ship was different. Humans couldn't mass-produce like the advanced races, so each vessel was a custom creation of its builders. "Signal all ships. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity exists." The target was a Zephyrian mining operation at the edge of Alliance space. Nothing military. Humans weren't ready for that yet. But the rare elements extracted there? Those were needed for the technology that kept humanity locked out of the galactic community. The attack was swift and decisive. Human ships dropped out of their screaming FTL, weapons already firing. The Zephyrian defenses, designed to handle pirates using stolen Alliance tech, crumbled before weapons that followed no civilized rules of engagement, kinetic rounds moving at percentages of light speed, nuclear-pumped lasers that turned armor to plasma. Guided missiles with AI so primitive it couldn't be hacked, only destroyed. The humans fought like they lived, desperately, efficiently, finally. When the Alliance response fleet arrived, they found empty mining stations and a message burned into an asteroid in 100 languages. "You denied us trade. So we took what we needed. Humanity." The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The Apex Counselor's plasma form flickered with agitation. "How did they develop FTL Drive? Our technology is protected." "They didn't steal our technology," the Mechanari delegate transmitted. "They built their own. It's crude, inefficient. It damages subspace itself. No civilized race would use such methods. But it works," the Ethereal observed. "And their weapons? Barbaric," the Vorthak rumbled. "They use kinetic energy and nuclear fire. They poison space itself with radiation. They fight without honor or aesthetics." The human raids continued. Never enough to provoke full retaliation, but constant. Humanity learned with each encounter. Their ships grew faster, their weapons more precise. They studied the wreckage of every skirmish, reverse engineering what they could, discarding what they couldn't, always adapting. On Earth, the transformation was even more dramatic. The rejection by the Council had united humanity like nothing else in history. Old enemies put aside grudges. Resources flowed to a single purpose. Children grew up dreaming not of sports or fame, but of the stars that had spurned them. Genetic modification, banned by the Alliance as crude interference, flourished. Humans enhanced their bodies for space, their minds for computation. They couldn't upload consciousness like the ethereals, but they could expand it. Cybernetics, banned by galactic law as pollution of the biological form, merged flesh and steel. The first human-AI hybrid consciousness was born in a basement in Mumbai. It thought with the creativity of flesh and the precision of silicon. It dreamed in code and poetry. It was everything the galaxy said was impossible, a fusion of the biological and digital without losing either. Ambassador Chen, now gray-haired and bearing the weight of 2 decades of struggle, stood before her daughter. They're starting to notice, really notice. The Council is debating military action. Sarah's eyes held augments now, silver threads that let her see across spectrums no baseline human could perceive. Let them come. We're not the same species that begged for scraps at their table. No, the elder Chen agreed. We're becoming something else, something they never imagined. In the depths of space, human colonies spread like infection. Each world was terraformed with brutal efficiency, not the elegant gardens of the Alliance, but functional ecosystems designed for one purpose, supporting human life and industry. They built in secret, traded in shadow, learned in silence. Every insult from 20 years ago was remembered, every dismissal catalogued, every sneer noted. Humanity was no longer knocking at the door of galactic civilization. They were building their own. The day of reckoning began with silence. Every human ship, colony, and outpost went dark simultaneously. The Alliance monitoring stations reported the anomaly with confusion rather than concern. After all, what could the primitives be planning? They found out when 1,000 human vessels materialized around the Council's crown jewel, the Nexus Station, where the Alliance's quantum network converged, the station that controlled trade routes, communication, and the very fabric of galactic civilization. The Apex Counselor's message was broadcast on all frequencies. Humanity, you dare too much. Stand down or face annihilation. The response came from Grand Admiral Chen Rodriguez, the hybrid offspring of humanity's greatest military and diplomatic minds. You had your chance to welcome us. You chose mockery. Now you face the consequences of underestimating the hungry. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in millennia. The Alliance ships were masterworks, energy shields that could deflect supernovas, weapons that could crack planets, drives that folded space like origami. But humanity had learned to fight dirty. Their ships deployed weapons that made the elegant races recoil, nanoswarms that ate through shields molecule by molecule. Computer viruses that evolved in real time, too primitive to be stopped by advanced firewalls. Ramming attacks by ships whose crews had been replaced by uploaded consciousnesses, willing to die again and again. The human fleet took horrific casualties. For every Alliance ship that fell, 10 human vessels burned. But humanity had built thousands. They poured through space like angry hornets, each death teaching the survivors. The hybrid mind commanders adapted in real time. Where the Alliance fought with strategies perfected over eons, humans threw away tactics that didn't work within minutes. They learned, evolved, overcame. The turning point came when the human dreadnought Vengeance, a ship so crude it was held together by magnetic fields and spite, rammed through the Nexus Station's shields. Its crew, all volunteers who had uploaded their consciousness minutes before impact, detonated the ship's core inside the station's quantum matrix. The explosion wasn't physical. It was informational. Every trade route, every communication channel, every carefully maintained system that kept the Alliance functioning, corrupted, confused, chaotic. Across the galaxy, the perfect civilization began to crack. Planets that had forgotten how to feed themselves without imported food faced starvation. Species that had outsourced their thinking to quantum networks found themselves unable to perform basic tasks. The immortal races discovered they had forgotten how to face mortality. The human fleets struck everywhere at once. Not to conquer, not yet, but to demonstrate. They hit supply lines, communication nodes, the soft underbelly of a civilization that had grown complacent in its superiority. On the Zephyrian homeworld, human marines in powered armor that leaked radiation and screamed with each movement faced energy beings who had thought themselves untouchable. The humans died by the hundreds, but they kept coming. Each death downloaded to the next wave, carrying tactical data, carrying rage. The Mechanari found their perfect digital realm invaded by human consciousnesses that thought in meat logic, introducing chaos into order, creativity into calculation, viruses that wrote poetry while destroying code, attacks that followed no pattern because humans barely understood patterns themselves. The ethereals, beings of pure thought, encountered human psychers, individuals who had torn open their minds to the universe through drugs, cybernetics, and sheer will. Where ethereal consciousness was refined over millions of years, human psychic potential was raw, wild, uncontrolled. It burned through mental defenses like acid. The Vorthak worlds cracked under bombardment from mass drivers, simple, brutal weapons that accelerated asteroids to significant fractions of light speed. No shields, no countermeasures, just the inevitable meeting of matter and mathematics. Within a year, the Alliance sued for peace. The perfect galactic civilization had met imperfection incarnate and found itself wanting. The new Galactic Council convened on Earth, a deliberate insult to the old order. The chamber was concrete and steel, lit by nuclear fire, decorated with the skulls of extinct Earth species, a reminder of survival through catastrophe. Grand Admiral Chen Rodriguez stood where Ambassador Chen had once begged, but there was no begging now. "You called us primitive, insects, mayflies." Her voice carried across the chamber through speakers that buzzed with interference. "You were right. We are all those things. But you forgot what makes insects terrifying. We adapt, we swarm, we survive." The Apex Counselor, its plasma form dimmed by defeat, spoke carefully. "What are your terms?" "No terms, no conditions. The old alliance is dead. What rises from its ashes will include humanity not as members, but as architects. Every species will have a voice. Every culture will contribute. The age of perfection is over. The age of growth begins." "And if we refuse?" Chen Rodriguez smiled, an expression that held no warmth. "Then we continue what we started. Your choice. Join us in building something new, or watch everything you built burn." The galaxy had learned a lesson written in fire and blood. They had mocked humanity for its primitive nature, for its crude technology, for its mortality. They had laughed at the apes who thought they could reach the stars. Now those apes stood atop the ruins of perfection, offering a hand up or a boot down. The galaxy's elder races, humbled and afraid, reached for the hand. The human empire didn't rise through conquest alone. It rose because when the galaxy burned away its arrogance, humanity was there to plant new seeds in the ashes. Crude seeds, imperfect seeds, but seeds that would grow into something the universe had never seen. A civilization that embraced its flaws, celebrated its mortality, and turned its limitations into strengths. A galaxy where innovation mattered more than tradition. where struggle bred strength, where death gave life meaning. The stars still glittered overhead, but now they belonged to everyone. The hungry had inherited the feast, and they intended to share it, whether the universe liked it or not.